This is the New Balance 860 V15, and it's not just an update, it's a completely different shoe. It's stiffer, more cushioned, and seriously comfortable. So is this already a contender for the stability shoe of the year? I've tested both the V14 and V15, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly what's changed, who the shoe is actually for, and how it compares to the ASICS GT-2000 version 14, which for a lot of people might actually be a better option. The biggest change straight away is the stack height. You're going from a 38-30 down to a 43-35mm. So there's a lot more cushioning and protection underfoot. It's still an 8mm drop, but overall, it's just a much bigger shoe. Weight has also gone up. It's now 392 grams versus 364 grams, and you do feel that straight away. But the real difference isn't just in the numbers, it's how the shoe is actually built. You've now got a wider platform, especially through the heel, a more centered heel bevel, and a much more aggressive forefoot rocker. And this is where it starts to feel completely different compared to the V14. So in terms of stability, you've got a much wider base underneath your foot, but in the heel, midfoot and forefoot, which increases the amount of contact which you have with the ground, so straight away that makes it feel much more stable underfoot. The heel is centrally positioned rather than posterior lateral, so for me it felt a lot smoother underfoot and a bit more balanced overall. Then through the inside of the shoe, you still have that thicker, denser foam towards the bottom with lighter, softer foam on top of the shoe. There's more of that thicker foam on the inside, less on the outside, which creates a slight tilt within the shoe, which we'd call a classic medial wedge. In this newer model, New Balance have called it a stability plane, and previously they had a plastic clip that ran through the whole shoe. This feels a lot firmer than that, making the shoe a little bit stiffer overall, both from the heel to the forefoot. As a result, you don't feel that medial wedge as much in the forefoot, but you really feel it more significantly in the heel in this version. It has resulted in the shoe being a lot stiffer in the forefoot, and that plays a big role when it comes to different forefoot conditions, which we'll touch on later. As we move on top of the shoe, it's completely overhauled as well. We now have a much wider fit in the toe box and slightly in the midfoot as well, but we also have a lot more volume in the toe box as well. So a lot of people are really going to benefit from this, as it's more accommodating to natural foot type and those with a wider foot. The tongue is very similar, but as we move towards the heel cup, it's a little bit more shallow. So those of you who had issues with lockdown in the past, you may not enjoy that, but for the majority of the population, it should give adequate padding, stability and support around the ankle to help control those pronation moments when you initiate contact with the ground. So compared to the V14, it's just much more accommodating in terms of the fit overall. And when you're walking in this shoe or using it as a lifestyle option, it's still really comfortable. We have the Fresh Foam X cushioning that we saw in the previous models within this range. However, it doesn't feel as soft underfoot. Because of that stability plate, you get a bit more firmness. And while it's still just as comfortable, it's not soft or mushy. It really gives you a nice stable platform underneath your foot. Now when it comes to running, it has a very different feel as well. So it's a bit bouncier, springier, and a bit more responsive overall compared to the V14. I just found it a little bit more fun to run in, a little bit more snap to it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not an up-tempo workout shoe because of the extra weight, but it just means those easy miles, those longer days on your feet are a little bit more enjoyable because there's a bit more bounce to it. So who is this shoe really good for? From a clinical perspective, if you've got a flatter foot and you need to offload the inside of your foot, then this is a great option. If you've got bunions or hallux rigidus, the gentle rocker on the forefoot that's extremely stiff and spacious is perfect option for both of those conditions. If you just generally have a wider foot, this will work for you as well. And it's important to keep in mind, while there's some really good upgrades to this shoe, it's not going to be for everybody. So if you have a history of peroneal tendon issues or lateral ankle instability, you might find that medial wedge tilts you out a little bit too far, therefore creating an overload of the lateral ankle or increasing your susceptibility to more ankle sprains. So before we discuss how it differs from the ASICS, let's do a quick recap. We have a stiffer shoe overall with a wider platform that makes it more stable. It's not as prominent the medial wedge towards the forefoot. It's more accommodating in terms of volume and width in the toe box. And it's a little bit less height on the heel bevel. It's much bouncier and a bit more fun to run in, but the downside is it's a little bit heavier than what we saw in the last model. And then when we think about a natural competitor, it has to be the GT-2000 version 14. It also has what feels like a medial wedge built into the shoe, so its 3D guidance system provides support in a similar way in terms of having a wider platform, some sole flare, and larger sidewalls. So you do feel them side rolls pushing up into your foot more prominently than you do in the New Balance. However, it has a lower stack, which means that you get a better ground contact feel. The FF Blast Max cushioning is a more responsive cushioning, similar to what we see in the running models like the Nova Blast 5. So it is bouncier, snappier and more responsive than what we get in the 860 V15. When it comes to walking and lifestyle use, they're both great options. If you want a slightly softer feel with more cushioning underneath your foot, a lot more protection and space in the forefoot, well then the V15 stands out here. The GT-2000 is also a great option for walking, but just differs slightly in that sense. When it comes to running, they are completely different shoes. The GT-2000 is a much lighter shoe, it's quicker underfoot, it's got more responsive foam, so for a stability shoe, it's one of the few ones that can do some early stage up-tempo workouts, some faster workouts over shorter distances, and it can also do those easier longer miles. Whereas the V15 is a bit more of a cruiser of a shoe. Yes, it's bouncier, more fun and more protective than what we saw in the V14, but it just doesn't match up to the speed that you can do in the GT-2000. However, again, it's more accommodating in the forefoot, a little bit stiffer underfoot for those of you who need those protection for those longer miles, and a shoe that is just going to eat up loads and loads of those daily miles for you. So overall, a really good upgrade. I do think it's probably one of the best stability shoes I've seen in the last 12 months, sitting alongside the Gaviota 6 and the Gelcaiano 32. I will do a comparison of all these shoes in the near future. As normal, I put links to the shoes in the description if you want to check out the latest prices on them. I have a monthly letter with the latest shoe reviews and updates on what shoes are for sale at the moment. And otherwise, if you found the video helpful or interesting, liking, sharing, subscribing is always appreciated.